welcome. We've got a really great topic that we're going to talk about, and we're going to get right to it. And that topic is, I feel like we need a drum roll. We're going to talk about yoga etiquette. There's a lot here to unpack. And okay, you're going to be chatting in the chat.
No, I won't. No, I won't. I'm just saying I love you, Jaria. I could just say that out loud now in the text. I just said Javis.
Totally.
I just said Javis instead of Jaria. You'll get it.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Basically, I think there are a lot of unspoken things that go on when you enter a yoga space. And there's some studios who will like actually have it written out, but if you don't take the time to notice or learn these things, you may never know. And there's some things that may fall under like proper yoga etiquette that you would never know. So I think we should kind of just like start there. For you, when you think yoga etiquette, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing is being respectful of remembering that you are not the only one having an experience in a public yoga class. And so you're doing something as a group. That's not to say if you need to, I don't like to use, if you need to do different variations of poses, it's not that you can't do those different variations. It's that like, you don't want to be in the front of the room holding a handstand for 10 minutes while everyone else is moving through a vinyasa. Because it's just inappropriate. So you want to do your best to stay in the context of what's going on in the class. Mm-hmm. And if you are someone who wants to do their own practice, that's fine. But a public yoga class is not the space to do it.
Yeah, so be mindful of other people around you. I think for me, similar, but the thing that comes to mind first has to do with how you set up when you enter a room. And I'm used to practicing at spaces that can get really busy. It's not so much since I've been teaching here in Chicago that I've experienced this, but where I would practice in Florida and in San Francisco, it's the type of setting that you're like mat to mat, like inches, like an inch between. And a big part of yoga etiquette that I never really liked is like the hogging of space or like the saving of props, like the saving of space with like props or like spilling out your bag and like all your personal items that make it known that you're not like welcoming anyone near you. So that's like on the one hand, I don't deal with that so much right now. I think we've all had a lot of space this last year, but that was something that used to bother me a lot. I think you just need to like just be respectful that other people are there, other people are joining in on this thing. And
totally.
In an essence, like the more shared energy, the better. What else? You mentioned the handstand thing, but I think we should talk about that a little bit more in terms of deviating from the sequences that are going on.
There's a couple reasons, and I think one of the main reasons is most classes now are multi-level classes. So it's not just like all advanced yoga, asana practitioners, and like it's like advanced yoga practitioners, people who have never done yoga before, and people that have been practicing for a little bit. We really kind of all levels you see more now because there's not as many basic yoga classes anymore. Unfortunately, it's a whole other conversation. So if you're at the front of the room and the teacher is cueing a class, let's say a sun salutation, and you're holding a handstand for a minute while that teacher is teaching the sun salutation, and a student in the middle of the room has never been in that class before and is now looking at the front of the room and wondering, why is this person holding a handstand? And confused because that person is not doing what the teacher is teaching. And that is inappropriate.
I think there's a fine line between
I'm talking about holding a handstand for an extended period. I'm not talking about you're flowing, you do a handstand into a chaturanga. Like I like to do that all the time. It's you being in the middle of the room and holding your handstand as long as you possibly can for 2 minutes in the center of the room, which like, let's be serious. Something's going on with you. You're doing it for a reason. If you set up at the center of the room, I'm sorry. I used to be this person until someone told me. I'm so embarrassed. I never do it anymore. I would never ever do this anymore. But like, there's a reason why you're doing a handstand in the center of the room, and it's to usually to show off, so people see that you're doing a handstand.
It's ego driven, and that's not why we're here.
Yeah.
I think if you are the handstand person and you want to do it, for me personally as a teacher, I'll tell you to go to the back of the room. Be like, hey, I saw you were really in.
That
Yeah.
brings up where like I've had conversations that with students. I'll never do it during the class, obviously, because the class already began. But if it's someone that's come to my class regularly, and I see like there was this student of mine, very sweet. She wasn't doing handstands. She was just doing her own thing. Like I would say stand up, she would sit down. I would say sit down, and she would stand up. I would say shavasana, and she would go into seated meditation. She was just like very into doing the opposite of what I was teaching. She was really sweet. I loved having her there. She did her own thing. And she can do her own thing, but do it in the back corner of the room so it's not distracting to the other people. And so I said that to students, and like I'm not, I'm not mean. I'm just like, hey, I see that you're doing your own thing. I love that you're coming to my class. I enjoy your energy. I enjoy you coming. But I know that since you do your own thing, for some students that can be distracting. So if you're planning on coming and doing your own thing, it's all good. Just set up at the back of the class.
Mm-hmm.
And
Especially when they're in the front row, because I think the front row becomes the unspoken demoers in
yeah.
classes where teachers are not performing the class. So if you're the type of teacher that just like walks around and observes and cues to what you're seeing and things like that, and there's very little demoing, the people that aren't sure of what's next, or like they're not like catching on to the flow, newer students, what is the name, moderate students, like anywhere from beginner to like mid-level, whatever, experienced students will still want to like look in front of them to make sure that they're like on the same page. So if you're doing something totally different, you're just like feeling yourself, it does throw off the group vibe.
Mm-hmm. It also can throw off the teacher. I mean, I've been teaching for a while, and there are points if like someone's doing something completely different, I'm like, why are they doing that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what, like teaching, and I'm like, why? Because in the back of my mind, I'm like, why did you come here? If you like wanted to do if you wanted to do your own thing completely. Hi from the basketball game. Hey, Megan.
Different
That
sport, baseball.
baseball.
You named a sport you tried.
Yeah, basketball, baseball, whatever. What was I saying? Now I'm distracted.
It's that it's thrown you off
It has.
before, like, and you're like, why are you coming
Then I'm
here?
trying to teach, and like, I'm like, what's going on? And there are times where like students have come up to me and they're like, hey, I'm pregnant, or I am dealing with a shoulder injury, or I'm, whatever. So I may be just kind of doing some different variations. I know my body, don't worry about me. Get it.
Yeah. Well,
Do you
I
know what I
think I agree. So I always tell students who like to just deviate a little bit, if they come often, just like you said, I won't do it during class, but after class, I'd be like, love your practice, love your energy. Would you mind setting up a little bit further back? And it could be as simple as that if you are a teacher and have had this happen to you.
Can I bring up
So yeah, is it a different yoga etiquette?
yeah, different
Okay.
yoga etiquette, which is if you're late to class, it's okay, but just do your best to be quiet. Like,
Yeah, and
don't slam your mat down, or like don't walk in and be like, I'm so sorry. Like,
yeah,
it's
and
like,
I would suggest, like, different studios have different policies. Like I've worked in places where they would not let you in after like 5 minutes. If it's more relaxed, like a 10-minute whatever, try to set up as close to the door and in the back as you can so that it's very discreet.
mm-hmm. Can I have
That's
one
a good
more?
one. Yeah, I've got a couple too, but keep going. You're on a roll.
Okay, my other one is this is just for me, and I got a lot of like, I feel like Instagram drama from saying this, but I think that videotaping yourself in public yoga class is so inappropriate. It's so embarrassing.
I've had this happen multiple
And,
times, and I know you
and it's
have
also,
too.
here's what I want to say to people that aren't yoga teachers. I yoga teachers take time to put together their content, and it feels like you are stealing their content, and even if you're not, by videotaping it. And it's also, if you people are like, well, um no, like, people are not set up behind me, it's only me. It's like, but I walk behind you and I don't want to be in your video that you put up on Instagram. So it's also consent of the people that are walking in the other room. So you've just made a space that people, what if they don't want to be on camera? Even if
Mhm.
you're just setting up before. And also, why?
Yeah. This beyond just videotaping, we don't tape anymore. Beyond videoing
I said,
yourself, you still say tape. Digital, should we say digital videoing? Um, Beyond that, just phone use. Let's just talk about phone use in general. I understand emergencies happen. Maybe you've got like kids in daycare, you're a doctor on call, all these things. Like it's fine to silence it and like keep it nearby if that's your situation. But I would
mhm,
also encourage you to leave it in a cubby, leave it in your bag. It's just 1 hour of your life if you can. If you
mhm.
absolutely cannot do that, you need it there, and we understand. Be discreet about it, silence it. Try I if this were me when I was a caretaker, I would cover it with a towel, but I would know if it buzzed or I would know if it like shined a tiny bit of light. And I
With it,
think that's okay. But I don't understand the people who, and this happened to me today, it's happened to me last week, who are literally texting up until the flow starts.
oh, see, that doesn't bother me as much as this. You ready for this, Gigi?
What?
I was at LDAC the other day, and it was
Uh-huh.
like breaking something down. Someone went to their phone and started texting while I was teaching. And there was a
Like they
class.
went to the back of the room,
No,
texted, and then like came.
no, they were like at their mat, and they're like, in front of them was their phone and all their stuff. So they
Yeah.
grabbed their phone in front of them. They started texting on it, and I was teaching, and I turned to her, and because you know me, I my ability sometimes to keep it cool is, I have a small bandwidth, so I'm also very, like, I see something, I'm very kind of direct with stuff like that. So she's on her phone while I'm teaching, and I just looked at her. I said, "Can you put that away?"
And what happened?
She was
What was the
like,
response?
I actually didn't wait for the response. She just put it. She was like, so she just put it away, and I just kept talking.
Good for
I'm
you.
not.
I
I
would,
way.
I'd be thinking that, but I'd be so shy and probably not do that.
No, I'm like, can you put your phone away? And they were like, I've also, I always say, like, as a joke, because before COVID, this was like a major issue I was dealing with. And just so everyone knows, we're not complaining. We love our jobs, but all jobs have their things where it's just like, some people just need to be told certain things.
I think we're like crossing over into like the problem students, but the at the heart of this conversation is just proper yoga etiquette because
Like,
some people might not realize like if you're entering
some people may like never take a yoga class and don't know. Like in other
or
workouts, they're checking their phone, they're checking their iWatch.
or
Uh,
they're taking a class at a gym and they've never experienced like the studio vibe.
I like to say too, because the iWatch thing is like, I don't understand the
Oh,
iWatch thing.
like when people are in down dog and they like start tapping their Apple Watch.
I mean, it really drives me up a fucking wall. I can't stand it. And usually what I say is, you're looking at your iWatch doesn't burn more calories.
I always see people and it'll be like in like a wave. Like I could see people who they like maybe start and they're like, oh God, I forgot to like set my workout. And then they like have to like hurry quick and set their workout on their iWatch. And I'm like, oh God, it's kind of,
That's actually why I got rid of the iWatch, because I was being class and it'd be going off, it'd be going off and going off. And I got so annoyed because I'm already so addicted to my phone that I just threw the iWatch away.
I think everyone needs
I probably should.
permission. Like most people in the world just need permission to just have an hour. That's it. Just 60 minutes to
Yeah.
themselves to disconnect from the outside and
Mm-hmm.
tune in to what's going on in here. And so
Are
we're
you
like
a
kind of, what?
Are you a yoga teacher?
Are you making fun of me? I think I'm just saying like we might be like poking fun at some of these things. We're like bonding over like the stuff we've experienced. But at the heart of it, it's not about us being annoyed at it. It's about like them receiving the benefits.
Of course, of course. I agree with you. I also didn't you say didn't Jason Crandall once say um like a yoga room is where all of people's like weird little kind of
Yeah, what was the word like quirks or something?
yeah, it's like in public spaces like that is where people's weird quirks come out. And it's true. I mean, I you don't know this, Gigi, but I did a stand-up storytelling event about teaching yoga. Did I tell you this?
No, this sounds great. This sounds like our next chat.
It went so well. People were literally like peeing themselves because like I was like, "Hey, I'm a yoga teacher. You can probably tell." That's how I started, and I was like, I started like talking about teaching and talking about like experiences teaching. I did the impression of the girl slamming down the mat. I did the like impression of the girls like, "It's too hot here. It's so hot." It was really funny.
Yeah. But to go back to the videoing stuff, Bradshaw, not just an invasion of like our proprietary content, if that's how you want to think of it. I've had students do it where there were other students in the background and it made people
Amazing.
really uncomfortable. And I had someone come up to me after class once and tell me that they liked my class, but they couldn't enjoy it because they felt like surveilled and invaded, and they just wanted this other student to stop.
I
And
get it.
I didn't even know that this was happening during the class because they like hid their phone behind their gym bag. This was in a gym setting, and it's just really uncomfortable for the others around you. So this all goes back to like that community environment that we need to respect. Um, Also, just a side note, it made more sense when I found out this particular person was videoing themselves because like all of the movements were like sexualized and exaggerated. And I was like, what is happening on this yoga mat? I was like, what is going on? Where is this video going to end up?
Hashtag
That's just,
go.
yeah, it was strange. Um, I used to do a lot of hot yoga. So another point of etiquette that
Is oh yeah, I know this one. Sweat on everyone that you see.
yes, you knew what I was gonna say. My biggest pet peeve, and it would always happen to me. I don't know how I would be the person
Because
who
you're too
somehow, some way, like I set up first, I'm there early, but I'd be like sandwiched between like 6'5" big sweaty men who don't fit on their mats that like sweat on my mat, and I'd have like their sweat dripping from each side. And hot
and then
yoga gets sweaty, but it was really bad.
do you know that like okay, so I started practicing Baptiste yoga, which is this like vinyasa
Power.
in like 90-degree power vinyasa, 90 degree. And we used to pack people in like sardines. And we used to be like, it's and like have it's you would never ever ever do this now, but like have people do airplanes touching each other and everyone would be like,
Yeah.
just stop.
I've done that in San
We never
Francisco.
do that now, ever. Um,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
I
that's
enough.
what? Your audio cuts out sometimes, so I didn't hear you.
I said I feel like I've talked to you enough.
He's being mean to me, everyone.
Love-
Well, I have two more that you didn't talk about
What?
that I can think of. So obviously we know that yoga is about breathing, but then there are like
They're the heavy breathers.
the over breathers.
Yeah, the Darth Vaders. We're like you're like inhale and you're like Gigi. Gigi, listen, it's like this.
Yeah. And I know that partially when Ujjayi breath is instructed, we make that comparison, we make that analogy of like, imagine you're fogging up a mirror or imagine you're Darth Vader or whatever it is. But there, like when it feels forceful, it's not your
No,
yoga breath.
you're sending your nervous system into a rye.
Yeah, it's not that's not the breathing pattern we want to go for. So there is a balance between having like a soft audible breath and then like the over breather. And I think the over breathers want people to know that they're like really doing yoga. They're like, I'm
Well,
really.
um, you know what I like how I tested this is like, can you hear yourself? Like you want to be able to hear your breath, but if like three people, if someone in the back of the room, 15 yards away can hear you, or like like five people next to you can hear you, you're breathing too loudly and you need to get over yourself. What's the next one?
Okay, the next one is kind of like a, I don't know if this is going to be like taboo or whatever, but like just hygiene, like just general, like saucha. If we go,
I'm gonna
if we
scout you. What?
saucha, if we talk
Yeah.
about the niyamas, just like cleanliness, there's
Well,
been time.
with again being in a public space and respecting the people around you. That's my boyfriend Sean. He's gay, and his hygiene's actually pretty good.
Okay, and then the last one that I could think of off the top of my head is talking in class. Um, there's been times where there's just like friends who come and get really distracted,
Mm.
or I've had situations where I would have students be like, am I doing this right? is
Oh yeah,
this is this it? Can you show me? And I'm like, this is a group thing.
yeah. So awkward.
So I think if you feel the need to ask questions like that, do it before or after class. If something happens in the moment, the teacher will usually sense it and know. So there'll be times where I will like come over to someone if it's like way different than what I'm instructing, and I'll be like, hey, put your hand here. Or like, I'll make sure that you're not wildly different. There's not really a need it's not a dialogue.
Totally.
I know you have ADD really bad and you're like itching to go, but we
No,
did
I'm
a
not.
good job. We went through all of the most common yoga etiquette issues that we think students should take into consideration and be really mindful of. We hope you
Yoga
enjoyed this.
yoga etiquette considerations.
Considerations. That's a good way to put it. And I hope that maybe in both whatever views, this was both helpful and humorous, because there's so much to love about this job and there's so much that's like, what is going on right now?
Yeah, I don't even know where I am right now.
I know where you are. You're in a hole.
All right.
All right. So we will be back next Wednesday as we do weekly, 9 p.m. Leave us a comment if you like this. What
Can you,
resonated?
how can I get this on my thing?
I'll send it to you. I
Bye.
got you, boo. All
Bye.
right. Bye.